Over the years, as a member of the X-Men, Wolverine has fought against some of the greatest villains in the Marvel Universe, but he's gathered a couple rogues of his own. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is going to be a one-shot that's really regarding Wolverine and the greatest enemies, the greatest villains in his history. So make sure you subscribe in order to get more content like this. To start off with, we're going to talk about the let's go 10. We're going to go 10 of the greatest villains that Wolverine has ever encountered inside his history. Coming in at number 10 is Cyclops. So while they have been teammates ever since Giant-Size X-Men number 1, we have seen them be rivals in the affection for Jean Grey, as well as be on the direct opposite sides of certain confrontations, especially after Scott Summers, Cyclops killed Professor X in Avengers vs. X-Men number 11. Even inside Hunt for Wolverine number 1, we see Scott visiting the tomb of Wolverine and saying how much Wolverine probably hated him up until his dying day. So while he might not necessarily be a direct enemy, Cyclops is definitely somebody that I would consider an adversary or villain inside Wolverine's storyline. Coming in at number 9, we have Omega Red. So Omega Red was actually a direct antagonist for Wolverine for quite some time. So while he was introduced inside X-Men number 4, which was by Jim Lee, we actually see that the origin of this kind of feud between Wolverine and Omega Red dates back to the 1960s and Team X, which was kind of a Black Ops CIA operation, which we learn about way later on in the history. But Omega Red presenting this carbonanium or whatever kind of tentacles was a really iconic villain for the 1990s X-Men and a direct adversary for Wolverine until he killed him inside Wolverine Origins number 40. However, Omega Red was resurrected inside the pages of X-Men Gold, so we could see a little bit more Wolverine Omega Red one-on-one action. Then coming in at number 8, let's talk about Donald Pierce and the Reavers. So while Pierce made his debut inside X-Men number 129 as part of the Hellfire Club, we didn't really get to know him as part of the Reavers until Uncanny X-Men number 229, where he teamed up with a bunch of different mutants that had kind of modified their bodies cybernetically to become the Reavers and really kind of staked out a place inside the Australian outback. This character and his team was actually so iconic that they portrayed him inside the Logan film, which was actually a relatively good representation, and we've even seen him in comics up as recently as Old Man Logan number 6 and 7. Jumping on to number 7, let's talk about the Silver Samurai. So while they made their debut inside the Daredevil book, I believe issue number 111, this is actually a character that has really blossomed in Wolverine's Japanese era. Chris Claremont really took ownership of this character and his journey forward, and as well as his adversarial nature against Wolverine, with a particularly epic storyline appearing in Uncanny X-Men 172 through 174. He was also a part of Big Hero 6, kind of taking a small amount of time as a hero for Japan, but in modern media he's really known as an adversary inside the Wolverine movie, which starred Hugh Jackman. But Silver Samurai definitely has a place in Wolverine's Rogues Gallery, and one of pretty much prominence. Then when we make our way to number 6, we can talk about OGUN, who was in Kitty Pryde Wolverine number 1, which is where he made his debut, and I believe he was another Chris Claremont creation. So this was the mentor of Wolverine that he met back in China during the war, and really, he taught Wolverine a lot about his hand-to-hand combat skills, and then eventually possessed Kitty Pryde and allowed her to train as an assassin, which made her considerably more dangerous than she actually was. So while OGUN had a relatively limited run inside that series, Kitty Pryde Wolverine, what we actually saw was that his spirit seems to transport itself into other people, taking possession of it, and what they do is they kind of wear the OGUN mask in order to kind of hold on to this essence. And so they've defeated the mask, they've kind of stabbed the various hosts and allowed them to escape, but we've never confirmed any kind of death for the character, so he's always one that can kind of recur, and with that kind of history with Wolverine, it always makes for an interesting story. Now that we head into the top 5, we can talk about DAKEN, who made his debut in Wolverine Origins, and this is the son of Wolverine. So when he was married to Itsu inside Japan, this is the illegitimate son that was actually taken by Romulus and placed in the care of another family, and eventually evolved to become what we now know as DAKEN. And he was corrupted from a very young age by Romulus to kind of take on this very dark role, and actually played the role of Wolverine inside the Dark Wolverine series, which was a really interesting kind of take on this entire scenario. So he's made major inroads into the Marvel Universe. He started his own Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, he became a horseman for the Apocalypse, and then finally he started making a couple resurgent roles inside All New Wolverine, as well as now he's currently on X-Men Blue as kind of this Magneto Polaris run X-Men unit. So it's always interesting to see where DAKEN ends up, and he's interesting as far as how his character's portrayed. Sometimes really an aggressive bastard, sometimes not so much, but still kind of a bastard. Then at number 4, we actually have the Hulk. So while Wolverine made his debut, actually his kind of like cameo inside Incredible Hulk number 180, and then his full debut inside Incredible Hulk number 181 while he was hunting down the Wendigo and happened to run into the Hulk, Hulk has been a key point in Wolverine's history, from his debut actually up until his future history as well inside Old Man Logan by Mark Millar. So the Hulk, while not necessarily an adversary, has given him some of his greatest battles, including another one inside Incredible Hulk number 340, which I believe has a Todd McFarlane McFarlane cover, but the Hulk is always kind of like there as this final battle. You can't help but wonder exactly how he got to this situation and love the mirroring of the beginning of Wolverine fighting the Hulk versus the end of the Hulk fighting the Wolverine. So, very interesting concept and one that I really love as far as Hulk being an enemy of Wolverine. Then at number 3, let's talk about Weapon X. So this isn't necessarily a character, but it's more like a program. So the Weapon X program, which actually debuted in 1991 inside Marvel Comics Presents number 71, I believe, this is actually the team that was run by the government to kind of like either exterminate mutants or modify mutants in order to create these super soldiers, and it really dates all the way back to the Weapon Plus program, which is responsible for the creation of Captain America. So when we're talking about Weapon X is responsible for not only the creation of Logan, who was Weapon X, the offshoot Department K created Deadpool. You've also got Sabretooth as a result of that, Laura Kinney's X-23, her little sister Gabby, which came out of a resurgence of that, and the brand new Weapon H from a revived Weapon X. So Weapon X itself as an entity run by William Stryker and a variety of other different people has always been a real thorn in Wolverine's side and a focus point for a lot of different stories. Coming in at number 2, let's talk about Lady Deathstrike. So also another character making its debut inside Daredevil, but she finally actually became Lady Deathstrike inside Alpha Flight number 33, where she was hunting down Wolverine trying to find his adamantium skeleton, but ended up getting defeated by Alpha Flight. And after that, she went to the body shop, modified herself, and became one of these genetic cyborgs that became a part of the REAVERS team with Donald Pierce. So Lady Deathstrike has become an iconic character, actually being portrayed inside the Wolverine movies as well. Not necessarily the best Wolverine movies, but she's in there. But Lady Deathstrike's got this really interesting character that brings her back and that ties her aggressively to Wolverine, which is a relative rarity for a lot of these different characters. So she is primarily focused on that. While she has had conflicts with the X-Men in the past, Wolverine is her main struggle, which is why she's hunting him down in the recent Claws for a Killer miniseries, as well as kind of teaming up with the old man Logan inside Weapon X. And then we go to numero uno, and numero uno is Sabretooth. So making his debut in Iron Fist number 14, Sabretooth actually has a legacy that dates well beyond a lot of other characters when it comes to Wolverine. He was there in 1912 when Wolverine was dating Silver Fox as part of an Indian tribe and actually conspired to have Wolverine attack this Indian tribe. He was there in the 1950s, actually as a part of the Avengers, and then eventually Team X in the 1960s on the team with Wolverine, which was a CIA Black Ops kind of operation. And he was also a part of Weapon X as well. Sabretooth and Logan, you know, they have had some very serious knockdown, drag-out battles, and he always ties into Wolverine's character. It's like they can't really escape each other, even up to the point where he's currently in the Weapon X books, and it's just one of those things where you can't help but love when they have to reluctantly team up. They're finally allies, they're finally enemies, they're always different things. It's almost like a bromance between Victor Creed and Logan, so I really love Sabretooth, and it's one of my favorites, and that's why I put him as number 1. But I want to know what you guys have for a favorite list. Are there any kind of villains that I missed as far as Wolverine's Rogues Gallery is concerned? Are there personal favorites that you would have ranked a little bit higher, maybe taken a couple off the list? Let me know in the comments down below so we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.